Today, the United States has now joined the illustrious ranks of France, 1940, of Imperial Japan, 1945, of Nazi Germany, 1945, South Vietnam, 1975. We have now officially given unconditional surrender to the goat fuckers in Afghanistan. We have officially lost the Afghan war after 20 years. Hundreds of American lives lost. Joe Biden has officially surrendered. Though according to him, it was the most successful withdrawal in history. We have evacuated 120,000 people from Afghanistan, of which approximately 5,000 were United States citizens. Do not forget that when our full-on retreat started last week, they were saying there was around 10,000 American citizens in Afghanistan, but we weren't sure. Now they're telling us, well, actually, we only left behind less than 100. The United States has fallen. Never in the history of this country have we left our people behind. Never! I know you can argue that we did that in Vietnam, but you can also argue that we didn't. Today, Tuesday, August 31st in the United States, 90 retired field grade officers have reportedly sent a letter to the Pentagon and to the White House telling them they should immediately step down for dereliction of duty, for failing to follow through with their oaths to the Constitution and to this country. Today, the Freedom Caucus in Congress has now put in an official demand, and they're submitting resolutions in Congress for President Biden, Vice President Harris, Secretary of Defense Austin, Chief of the Joint Chiefs Milley, Secretary of State Blinken to immediately step down for dereliction of duty. And if Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer do not call back Congress into session to at least begin debate and discussion over what happened, they said that they should be immediately removed from their positions for dereliction of duty. They're already going through whitewashing the fuck out of this whole thing. For those of you that didn't hear, last week, as we were hightailing it, trying to get people out of Afghanistan, American citizens were not made the priority on the flights out. If an American citizen notified the U.S. Embassy, or at least where the calls were being routed to, they were told, stay where they are. We're going to come get you. But at the same time, the U.S. troops were reporting they were under direct orders not to leave the Kabul airport for any reason. So we lied to those Americans who were trying to contact us and pleading for help to be evacuated. The State Department posted on their website last week that if you were an American in Afghanistan, it was up to you to figure out how to get out. When the media immediately started contacting the State Department to find out why they posted this, the State Department said, we didn't post it, and they took the posting down. But the cat was already out of the bag. It wasn't just one or two news agencies that seen that posting. Also, while U.S. troops were on Kabul airport, not allowed to leave, our allies, the Dutch, the Australians, the British, were sending their special forces teams across Afghanistan, evacuating their nationals. But the U.S. troops were told they could not leave the airport. Retired special forces went to Afghanistan, organized their own operation with the Department of Defense and the State Department. They volunteered to go off of the airport and evacuate the people that we promised we would take out, that we would protect. You may have noticed the news stories last week. These people who were no longer in uniform, who were retired, went into harm's way to get people out that they promised they would evacuate from Afghanistan. How did we reward them? The liberal media in this country and Fox News started running story after story about that operation going on. Personally, I think charges should be brought up against every fucking reporter and every son of a bitch in those news agencies for running that story, because they put those American veterans in danger. They were notifying the Taliban that we had people going in and that they were not U.S. government, but they were private citizens, which means they did not have the protection of the U.S. government. Reportedly, while this was also going on, I came across a news story, actually a couple, late last week, that the Biden administration, taking a page straight from old Dumbo, Shit-Stain 44, the planes they were bringing into Kabul, some of them were loaded with pallets of brand new U.S. $100 bills. And this money was being given to the Taliban so that they would help provide security on the outside of the fence. So we were paying extortion money to a bunch of fucking terrorists to keep them from attacking us. Think about that one. Now, as part of the bullshit that's being shoveled at us at lightning speed, being dumped on us with fucking front end loaders and bulldozers and as giant a pile as they can make, the Pentagon announced that this evacuation was a success, and as part of the operation, we destroyed over 130 vehicles and aircraft at the Kabul airport to make sure it would not fall into the hands of the Taliban. This was a face-saving measure, somewhat. That equipment was shit we brought in with us when we occupied Kabul airport, and instead of loading it up, taking it out with us, we left it behind. Granted, we quote-unquote demilitarized it. Who knows how, you know, maybe they damaged a vehicle, maybe they blew something up, or maybe they just left it there and shot the tires. Who knows? How did they demil the stuff? Did they call in airstrikes on the fucking airport as the last plane was taking off to destroy the stuff? I don't fucking think so. Now, this, as I said, is a face-saving measure, because people have been asking the last couple weeks what the plan was to destroy the equipment we left behind that we gave the Afghans to use in their fight against that terrorist organization, the Taliban. I don't give a fuck what the media says about how they're the new lawful government of Afghanistan. They've reformed their ways. They are a fucking terrorist organization that we have been at war against for 20 fucking years. We didn't sign a peace treaty with them. We fucking surrendered to them. That equipment that they were picking up, you know, just a reminder of what happened with ISIS going into Iraq, for those of you that forgot that one. That was the equipment we gave the Afghans to fight the Taliban with. Now, Trump said that we should immediately demand all of that equipment back from the Taliban. And I'm sure the idiot actually believes they'll give it to us, you know, because we're so big and strong, and, you know, we're so terrible and mean that we ran with our fucking tail between our legs. The Washington Post is covering this up, saying that Trump's lying and gave him 3 Pinocchios because it wasn't $83 billion in equipment. You know, it's actually only $24 billion, and that we only spent $82.9 billion, not $83 billion. That's $82.9 billion to give that equipment to the Afghans, to train them and pay their wages, which very few Afghan troops ever got the money. It was always embezzled by people in government and their leadership. Hence one of the reasons why they threw down their weapons and equipment, said, fuck you, and they walked off. Why should they keep fighting and dying for a government that wouldn't even fucking pay them or feed them? The South Vietnamese held out a hell of a lot longer than the Afghans did. The South Vietnamese kept fighting till they were literally inside Saigon, fighting for block by block. The Afghans tossed down their shit, just like you just seen. And then, you know, figured they'd go home. Well, they're not going home. Reportedly, the Taliban is executing the troops that they captured. And troops that surrendered to them and changed sides and said that they support the Taliban, they're getting executed also. Now, people have asked the question, why didn't we keep Bagram open? Why did we go out of the smaller airport, harder to control in Kabul? Those of you that don't know the situation here, and I only found this out today, Biden ordered Bagram airbase to be evacuated on July 2nd. And as the U.S. left, we left the equipment behind for the Afghans, but we didn't even notify the Afghans that we were leaving the fucking airbase and they were supposed to come in and take it. So what had ended up happening? Instead of the Afghan Defense Forces, the Afghan National Army coming in, taking that equipment on Bagram and occupying the airfield, the Taliban fucking did it. That equipment was not demilitarized. We loaded everyone up onto aircraft and flew out of there. The Taliban, noticing there was no guards anymore, started walking in and officially captured the airbase. Now, according to the Freedom Caucus and some retired officers that were involved with the stuff, under Trump, he had a plan for pulling out of Afghanistan that would have worked. Under Trump's plan, the first thing we were going to do as we were drawing down the troops little by little was we were going to evacuate every single American from Afghanistan before we finished the withdrawal. And when we did the withdrawal, the equipment that would go to the Afghans, we would literally hand off to them. Literally, here you go, Ahmed, here it is. Not drop it on the ground and then let Ahmed know a day or two later. Bagram Air Base was supposed to be the last thing, the last location U.S. troops were going to leave out of under Trump's plan, reportedly. We were going to pull everyone out from Bagram because we could handle more flights, larger aircraft, and a lot larger volume. Instead, that's the first fucking thing we turned over to the Taliban. Let that all sink in. This whole fucking thing we've seen over the last 2 weeks here was set up on purpose to discredit us in the eyes of the world, to discredit us in the eyes of our allies, people like Australia, South Korea, Japan, Taiwan. Why do I mention those? Because the Chinese right now are literally holding press conferences where they say that they will be reuniting Taiwan with the People's Republic of China at any moment. So Taiwan and the other countries in the region are sweating bullets. They're shitting bricks, trying to figure out what the hell they're going to do. They're relying on the United States to come back them up. And now we just showed them, not going to do it. We're not going to honor any agreements we had to back anyone up. That's what the fall of Afghanistan showed. And you can guarantee that a lot of that equipment we left in Afghanistan, Russian special forces, Chinese special forces, Iranian special forces, and any other enemy we got in the area that could get close enough, have been going through Afghanistan smuggling stuff out. Granted, the stuff may be 1 or 2 generations behind what we use now, but the intel they will get off of it will be invaluable. I don't care how quote-unquote advanced the Chinese military is now. They're still about 2 generations behind us. And they need that light speed jump forward that they can get from the shit we left with the Afghans. Because that stuff's a hell of a lot more modern than what the Chinese are even fielding right now to use against the Taiwanese, that they're threatening to use against the Philippines, that they're threatening to use against the Japanese, that they're threatening to use against Australia, that they're threatening to use against Vietnam. Think about it. And accept it. The United States is now France. We have unconditionally surrendered to a bunch of goat fucking guerrillas on the battlefield. That military that we were told was so strong that the American taxpayer, the American patriot, will never be able to stand up against it because they got nuclear missiles. They got F-15s. How good did that work against the fucking goat fuckers in Afghanistan? Huh? Tell me. How? So whenever you hear them say American patriots are the true enemy and they don't stand a chance because they don't have what the U.S. military has, why don't you point out to them, neither did the Viet Cong. Neither did the fucking Taliban. Think about it.